Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're looking at a truly fascinating piece of text titled Fear Inside Yourself. What we're going to do in this explainer is unpack the anatomy of internal fear, breaking down exactly how this source material so poignantly dissects the gears and levers of our own anxieties. We often think of fear as something that attacks us from the outside, right? A threat we can see, hear, or literally run away from. But this text, it completely challenges that fundamental assumption. It asks us to look inward and really examine the ways we manufacture our own monsters. Right from the very first verse, the text hooks us with this deeply relatable scenario. It asks, in essence, whose footsteps are in the distance? Think about that feeling for a second. You keep checking every doorway like a shadow might suddenly appear out of nowhere. We've all been there, haven't we? Staring into the dark, projecting a threat into an empty space. It's just so much easier to blame a creaky floorboard than to admit we're just anxious. We're constantly checking for shadows that simply aren't there. The text points out that these footsteps in the distance aren't from anyone out there. It sets up this immediate mystery, forcing us to ask, if the threat isn't outside, what exactly are we so afraid of?
Which brings us to Section 1, the external illusion, and how we project our anxieties. The text brilliantly illustrates our natural tendency to look for physical threats outside of ourselves, mostly just to avoid dealing with the internal ones. Like we might hear thunder and immediately start bracing for a storm, locking windows, preparing for a physical impact. But in reality, that thunder is actually the tension you've completely ignored. You aren't keeping the weather out, you're just distracting yourself from the unresolved feelings building up inside.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the exact same mechanism happens in the quiet. You might perceive a whisper in the silence, mistaking it for someone creeping up on you. But the source material gives us a pretty massive reality check here. The closer you listen, you realize it's just your pulse inside your chest. Your own life force is echoing in the quiet, completely tricking you into thinking the world is closing in. It's such a powerful metaphor for how our own internal panic can trick us into thinking we're under attack. Moving right along to Section 2, the cycle of avoidance, or as I like to call it, the escape trap. So, once we realize these threats are internal, human nature kicks in, and we naturally try to get away. We can actually map out this cyclical behavioral trap directly from the text. First, you run from a feeling. Then, you fight with the past. You try to push it all away. And the inevitable result? Well, the harder you push it, the faster it comes back. It's basically a psychological treadmill. By actively trying to suppress your emotions and battle your own history, you're actually feeding those exact anxieties the energy they need to return with even greater velocity. It's wild.
And this avoidance loop is incredibly stubborn. You keep trying to outrun it, and every single time you think you've lost it, boom, you find it once again. But the most striking, visceral detail the text gives us is that this fear is literally stitched into your skin. Think about that. You can't outrun something woven into your very being. All escape attempts are totally futile because wherever you run, well, you take the fear right there with you.
That leads us to Section 3, the ghosts we hide, and confronting those internal realities. So if we can't escape it, what exactly is it? When all the external illusions finally fade away, we have to look at what's actually haunting us. And according to the source material, these aren't supernatural entities. No, the ghosts are every habit you've been hiding and every truth you never tell. This is a profound shift. The monsters we're so desperately afraid of are simply our own unsaid truths and concealed behaviors. The shame of hidden habits and the burden of unspoken honesty, these are the real things haunting the empty rooms of our minds. The absolute crucial point is found in this specific lyric, "They know you all too well." Why do these ghosts keep returning? Because they are you. They're unavoidable precisely because they're intimately familiar with your true self. You can lie to the outside world, you can lock the windows and check the doorways all you want, but you absolutely cannot hide from the parts of yourself that know your deepest secrets. They literally hold the master key to your mind.
Let's get into our final section, the ultimate realization, facing the true source. We've completely dismantled the illusions and identified the ghosts. Now, the text guides us toward where this fear actually originates. It outlines the external scapegoats we use as final, desperate excuses to avoid confronting our internal issues. We blame it on the darkness, we blame it on the night. We hide behind silence, or we try to drown it out in noise. We will literally exhaust every possible external factor just to point the finger anywhere but at ourselves. Now, what's really interesting here is how the text completely shatters all those excuses with just one line. The echo in the distance is the sound of your own voice. It brings us completely full circle. Remember the footsteps in the distance from the very beginning? The whisper in the silence? It was never an intruder. It was never a monster. It was just you. This pivotal realization shows the absolute futility of our avoidance. The call is, quite literally, coming from inside the house.
And this brings us to the emotional climax of the text. Throughout the earlier choruses, the refrain was, "The only thing to fear is inside yourself." But in the final chorus, there's this massive shift. It moves from fear to reality. The text states, "The only thing that's real is the truth inside your head." It's no longer just about being afraid of what you're hiding. It's a powerful acknowledgement that this internal landscape, these unsaid truths, are the most real things you possess. Once you strip away the fake shadows and the imagined thunder, the truth in your own mind is literally the only thing left standing. Which leaves us with this incredibly provocative question pulled directly from the bridge of the text. It states that the thing that really haunts you is the part you never fight. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to reflect on your own internal avoidance. What is the part you never fight? What's the feeling, the habit, or the truth that you have been locking the windows against? Because as we've seen today, until you turn around and face it, you're just going to keep running from your own heartbeat.